Last night we got Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2, and I watched all 5 episodes last night with my brother. Here are my thoughts on it. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I like to talk about a lot of movies and TV shows on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share what you thought of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2 over on my channel. There's more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe because that really does help a lot. And to give you a bit of context on how Cobra Kai is in my household, I was a bit late to the party to watch Cobra Kai. I didn't watch it until Season 3 came out, and I watched the entire show. And then Season 4 came out, Season 5 came out, and it's become kind of like a thing in my household where we get excited for the new episodes or the new seasons of Cobra Kai to drop. Mainly because my brother is absolutely obsessed with this show. He eats this thing up. Like, this is his favorite piece of media of all time. When you combine all the movies he's seen, all the TV shows he's seen, his favorite of all of them is Cobra Kai. Spends every day thinking about it. And so he was naturally very excited to watch Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. I was excited because he was excited. I was not a big fan of Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 1, the last 5 episodes. I wasn't very positive on those episodes, unfortunately, but I was still holding out hope that this season may potentially win me over, but I was just a bit soured on Cobra Kai, so I watched them last night reluctantly. Let's share my thoughts talking about the good. And I'll cut straight to the chase. I thought that there were a lot more positives to consider and to talk about in this video than there was with the previous 5 episodes that they've dropped. And I would say it is very much an improvement over Part 1, the last 5 episodes. In the last 5 episodes of the show, wasn't really a big fan of it because there was simply just Season 5 felt like the natural conclusion to the show, where it's about stopping Cobra Kai, and by the end of Season 5, they've stopped Cobra Kai. And then when they announced they're doing a 6th and final season, I was very skeptical, and Part 1 didn't win me over because the drama feels so repetitive in Part 1. Characters aren't being very likable, and it's tough to root for them. We're not given a good enough reason in Part 1 for Miyagi-Do to win the karate tournament. And it's not. I'm still not even clear. It's still not even clear how a tournament is going to be the satisfying conclusion to the entire show. Thus, my expectations for Part 2 were strained because of how I felt about Part 1. However, my brother was still like hyped as hell for this thing. So I would say this is an improvement, and that's because I thought the World Tournament stuff, this one is set in Spain, and the World Tournament stuff tied together a lot better and is more interesting than what was given to us in Part 1. Part of that is because in this set of episodes, they continue elements of previous seasons and bring back some things, do some retconning, and for the most part, I would say it worked well enough, surprisingly, where I'm not trying to get into spoilers. There are clearly some things in the trailer for Season 6 Part 2 that they're definitely trying to hide. So it's hard to talk about this particular critique of the show without spoiling it. But I will say, what they do in the middle of it worked well enough. And I found it more interesting. I was a lot more invested once that happened. I found it, and part of that is because what they do in the middle of the tournament, finally, in the middle of the set of episodes, finally gives us something to work against. Where there's a reason why one of these dojos should lose. And it actually adds a bit of forward momentum in ways that the other seasons didn't. Likewise, when I thought the fights in this season were very cool. While I'm not as crazy about Season 6 on a whole itself, I thought the fights were very, very cool watching it. I don't know how this season will actually play out if I watch Part 1 and Part 2 back to back and not wait 3 months apart for each other. But I would say the fights are very, very, very cool, very interesting. Like I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's like a 15-20 minute fight in this set of episodes sometime, and it's a cool fight. It just is. And while the retconning did work well enough, there are some things with the characters and the drama that always has been running the entire show. There's always been drama. There's always been tension between characters. And what I criticized about part 1 was that they were making the characters a little bit more unlikable. And in this season, while it is kind of repetitive, we'll get to that later, the arcs that they do give the characters work well enough. They still know the formula. They're doing it again, and it works okay enough. And so with the show on a whole, overall, with season 6, I still don't know that I'm a big gigantic fan of season 6, but I can say safely that this was a good enough set of episodes, and these were some of the positives I said about it. I'm actually considering doing a spoiler review for this because it's hard to talk about some of these things without going into spoilers. But I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to keep this video spoiler free. From there, let's move on to the bad. While I do think that these episodes are an improvement, certainly over the previous 5 episodes that they dropped, I still think that this is a very flawed set of episodes. But flawed in a way that I still enjoy it. It's still entirely watchable, it's entertaining, and I felt some forward momentum. But there are some issues in the storytelling here. First off, the drama just feels way too repetitive. Where kind of you're thinking, haven't we played this whole game already? How many times are Daniel and Johnny going to fight over senseis? How many times is Dimitri just going to be... Like, Dimitri in this season has just been so self-destructive, and for no particular reason. No particular good reason, either. Like, how many times are boyfriends and girlfriends actually gonna, like, break up and go with other people and then make up by the end of it? Like, how many times is that going to happen in this show? And this season serves all of that, and it just feels so repetitive, and it's not nearly as relatable. The original season, the first season of Cobra Kai, had this relatable factor to it about a child finding a father figure. Kind of that formula done in the original Karate Kid as well. But here, it doesn't, it has drama, it has forward momentum, but it feels a little bit stale and repetitive, and definitely not as relatable as it would have been in, like, season 1 of the show. And also, some of the plot lines on the side could be easily resolved. Some of these plot lines play a big part in what this set of episodes serves, and they could easily be resolved. Characters are actually committing full-on felonies, certain characters, and for some reason, they don't call the police. That just kind of, because we want our characters to have something to work against, you don't want to call the police because all of a sudden you take out that threat. So it's still conflicting with itself with that plot line, with those plot lines, and it's not as effective in those ways. Also, I would say, I think the retconning and stuff that they do in the middle of this set of episodes works well enough, and it gives us something to work against. Well, there's a reason that an opponent should lose the tournament, I'm not sure why Miyagi-Do should win the tournament. It's this weird conflicting feeling I have with this season, where sometimes when you give us some forward momentum, you give us something to work against, but if Miyagi-Do wins, is the only motivation to win so that the other team could lose, or do they have their personal ambitions? There's this whole thing they do with Miguel, who's trying to win because he's trying to apply for college, and I don't think that has anything to do with karate tournaments, especially after what happens at the end of this set of episodes. I'm not even sure it matters if they win anymore, so it's still not entirely clear to me. Other thing to talk about here, and I think this is the last thing that comes to mind, Cobra Kai itself is a little bit sidelined in its own show. where the show is called Cobra Kai. And of course, when you're at a world tournament, you have several different dojos, but the main focus is on the Miyagi-Dos and the Cobra Kais. And they get a little bit tossed to the side in this one. And it gives us this new threat to work against, but Cobra Kai is kind of to the side. They're not really the main villains anymore. They're not really the main focus of the show. And you're watching a show called Cobra Kai. And so, while it is a little bit more interesting what they did, I still don't know that they know what to do with Cobra Kai in this season. The Cobra Kai Dojo itself. And so, just some lapses in logic, some strange characterizations, and some strange ways to handle the plot lines. Overall, it's a kind of a mixed bag, but I find it entirely watchable. So overall, I'm going to give this season, if I had to grade it, a B-. But those are just my thoughts on Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. I'll tell you, my brother is a big fan of the show. He really enjoyed this set of episodes that they dropped. This Cobra Kai Season 6 is his favorite season. So if you're a big fan of the show, definitely go watch it. But as for me, I thought it needed a better sort of motivation, and it needed better drama if it wanted to add, especially since Season 5 felt like the end of the show. So those are my thoughts on Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2. Down below in the comment section, share what you thought of it. Over on my channel, there's more content like this. Check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end, and I will see you in the next one.